It's 11:30 on a Friday night. You've got the remote in your hand and you're doing the thing again, scrolling. 40 minutes of scrolling, 6 streaming apps, 11,000 movies, and not one face on that screen makes your thumb stop moving. Now rewind to 1989. You walk into a video store on a Friday night, past the popcorn smell, past the cardboard cutouts, and one face on one box is enough. You don't read the back, you don't check a score, you don't ask the guy behind the counter. The face was the review. So what happened? Where did those faces go? And why did nobody ever take their place? In 1985, a movie star could open a film in 1,200 theaters on their name alone. In 1985, a star's face on a poster was worth more than the plot, the director, and the studio combined. In 1985, we knew maybe 30 truly famous people, and we knew them for decades. Today, there are more famous people than at any point in human history, and somehow no stars. And here's the part nobody tells you: movie stars didn't fade away because they got old, and they weren't replaced because audiences never stopped wanting them. Hollywood retired the movie star on purpose, because a star is a person, and a person negotiates ages and says no. A franchise is property, and property does what it's told. Once you see that, everything about modern Hollywood suddenly makes sense. My name's Jamin, and this channel, Rewind with Jamin, is where I bring those faces back. Every week, I go through hundreds of photographs of the stars we grew up with. I restore them, I line them up against today, then and now side by side, sometimes across 60 years of a single face. This year alone, I put together over 3,000 of those comparisons. And when you stare at that many famous faces from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you start to notice something strange. The assembly line that made them is gone. The people who came after never got what they got. So today I want to show you what actually happened, the 5 reasons Hollywood stopped making movie stars. And fair warning, number 4 is the one the industry really does not like saying out loud. Reason number 1. Stars never just happened. They were built, manufactured. In 1930, a young man named Marion Morrison walked into a studio office and walked out as John Wayne. Under the old studio system, they signed kids to 7-year contracts, fixed their teeth, changed their names, taught them how to walk, how to talk, how to light a cigarette on camera, and even after that system died, the machine kept running. Through the 80s and 90s, agencies packaged stars and studios built entire movies around one single face. Then look at what happened. In 1998, almost every one of the year's 10 biggest movies was sold on a star's name. Hanks, Willis, Eddie Murphy, Will Smith. In 2024, 1, maybe 2, if you're feeling generous. The other 8 were sold on brands, superheroes, sequels, animated franchises. The character became the star, and the actor became replaceable. Think about it, they recast Batman 6 times. You could never recast Paul Newman. Reason number 2, we killed the mystery. In 1985, if you loved Harrison Ford, you got maybe 2 hours of him a year. 1 movie, 1 talk show appearance, 1 magazine cover in the grocery store checkout line. And that scarcity did something powerful. Your imagination filled in everything else. That's what mystique actually is, the gap between sightings. The old studios understood this so well, they enforced it. Greta Garbo gave almost no interviews for her entire career, and 80 years later, we're still talking about her. When a star finally sat down with Johnny Carson, it was an event. Families planned their evening around it. Today, that gap is gone. We see the stars every single day at the airport, at the gym, making breakfast on a phone screen, apologizing for something in a bathroom selfie. A star you can DM isn't a star, they're a feed. And nobody has ever bought a movie ticket to see a feed. Reason number 3, and this one's the quiet killer, the movies that created stars simply stopped being made. Think about how a star was actually born. A $20 or $30 million drama, a comedy, a thriller, carried entirely on one performance. Pretty Woman, 1990, a $14 million movie that turned Julia Roberts into the most famous woman on the planet in a single weekend. Hollywood used to release dozens of those every year. They were the farm system, the training ground, and it wasn't just Julia. Tom Hanks came out of the mid-budget comedies. Denzel Washington was built by a decade of mid-budget dramas. Sandra Bullock, a bus that couldn't slow down. Almost every star you grew up with was born in a movie that cost less than a franchise film's marketing budget. Since 2000, that mid-budget movie has been cut roughly in half. The studios moved all their chips onto a handful of $200 million franchises, where the brand carries the actor, not the other way around. And no star vehicles means no new stars. That's why in 2026, the biggest movie star on Earth is still Tom Cruise, a man who became famous in 1983. It's not that nobody could replace him, it's that Hollywood tore down the machine that builds the replacement. Which brings us to reason number 4, the uncomfortable one. The studios ran the numbers and discovered that stars don't actually sell tickets anymore. Economists have studied this for 20 years and the results are brutal. Attaching a big star adds only a few percent to a film's box office, call it 3%, while that same star costs $20 million upfront plus a cut of the profits. Meanwhile, a franchise logo can double an opening weekend all by itself, and it never asks for a trailer on set. So put yourself in that boardroom. $25 million for a face, or $0 for a logo that sells better. Hollywood read that memo 2 decades ago and never looked back. Here's the truth of it, the movie star never lost the audience. The movie star lost the spreadsheet. And reason number 5, fame itself broke into pieces. On February 28, 1983, 106 million Americans watched the same television show on the same night, the finale of MASH. Half the country, one screen. That was the world that made movie stars possible. 3 networks, 1 People magazine, 1 MTV. Fame was a funnel and the whole culture poured through it together. Today that funnel is shattered into a million little mirrors. There are creators with 100 million followers your parents have never heard of, and Oscar winners your kids couldn't pick out of a lineup. The biggest premiere of the year now loses the evening to a video game stream. Fame didn't shrink, it fractured, and a fractured spotlight is never bright enough to make a legend. Now, to be fair, I have to be honest with you, because it isn't all doom. Some of this is genuinely better. Actors today aren't owned by studios that decide who they date, what their name is, and what they're allowed to say. And real stars do still break through. You can count them on one hand, but they exist, so no, the movie star isn't 100% dead. But the world that mass-produced them, the video store, the 7-year contract, the Friday night when the whole country watched the same face, that world is gone. And it is not coming back. So that's the real story. The factory closed, the mystery died, the star-making movies vanished, the spreadsheet said no, and the spotlight shattered into a million pieces. And honestly, that's exactly why I make these videos. Because those faces, the ones that filled the posters and the magazine covers and the Friday nights, they're still here. In their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Some of them we've already lost. And every week on this channel, I line up the photographs, then and now, and give them the one thing the industry stopped giving them, being remembered. So tell me in the comments, who was the first movie star you ever loved? The first face that made you buy a ticket or rent the tape twice? I read every single one. Next week, I'm lining up the most beautiful actresses of the 1960s then and now, some of those faces across 65 years. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, keep rewinding.